Hi, today we are joined by a multi-talented, multifaceted individual who comes from humble beginnings and rose to be the highest level in his profession.
Over a corporate career spanning of 46 years, he led not one but two corporate giants, both in Sri Lanka and abroad. He is also an extremely talented singer, a caring mentor, an outstanding leadership and executive coach. He is none other than Mr. Ronnie Pires.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Ronnie.
Good morning.
You started your career at Livier Brothers and then migrated to Zambia, and then rose up to be the managing director of Anglo American, a mining giant. After that, you became the group finance director of John Case Holding PLC. It's a remarkable career. How do you attribute this success for?
Okay, first of all, let me correct you. I was managing director for Anglo American at Central Africa.
Central.
It's a massive organization. I was not in the
Okay.
group. But I would attribute whatever success can be relative to absolute hard work, application, intensity of application, humility, the ability to get on with people, and just to take away the clutter. Just keep things simple, objective and focused. That I would say are the key
factors.
Okay. So, in your book, you have said that your parents imparted you with priceless values and important lessons. So, your father was a teacher and headmaster at St. Thomas College, while you mention your mother as the world's best CEO. So, can you share with us a few of important values and principles?
Yeah, first let me start with my mother, who a lot of us don't really talk about first, because my dad was quite a character. And he taught so many people at St. Thomas's, so everyone talks about my father. But I think the quiet character in our life was my mother. And when you think that we had in our house, which is quite a large house, at one stage we must have had about almost 38 people in that house. She was the only female. And we were 7 boys in our family, and everyone else were boarders. And they were boarders from as close as Vellavatha.
Okay, sir.
Parents just kept them at our house because they wanted them disciplined and to become men of the world. And mind you, with 2 servants, my mother managed that entire house. My father had no hand in that. He must have just given her the money, and it ran like clockwork. There was never a day when I was hungry or anyone else was hungry. We had breakfast. We had, if it was a weekend, we had something at about 10 o'clock, 10:30. It's a bread or a cake or something like that.
Yeah.
Lunch, then tiffin again at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and then dinner. And I'm amazed. I don't know how the hell she managed that. So that's why I call her the best CEO. Money was never short. We were never hungry. We were all happy, satisfied. The only thing we were unhappy was about our freedom, because everything was done like a military. When I come to my father, not only my father and my mother also, but generally my father, is that there were uncompromising values. The way he wanted us to treat fellow people, servants, anyone who came into our life, irrespective of caste, creed, religion, color, gender, was you treat people as human beings. Go down to their level if necessary. Don't treat anyone shabbily. Love them, care for them, share with them whatever you have. And those are values that have never left me. And also in terms of integrity, honesty, saying the right thing. Even if his wife was wrong, wife said something, he will still stand by what he thinks is right. And that's what has come to us. Even if my mother says something, just because she's my mother, I won't accept it. If I feel it's wrong, I will say so. So those are all great values, and unfortunately in this modern corporate world, as well as in the corporate world, corporates come out of leadership. This entire Sri Lanka, if you take from political leadership, I'm sorry to be political, but we just don't have that type of values, and that's why our country is in this state.
You
as someone who has had the experience of working with different people in different cultures, earlier you worked in Sri Lanka and then back in Africa and then again to Sri Lanka. So even at John Keys being one of the biggest entities in Sri Lanka, you have guided and mentored many of the people. So when it comes to leadership, what would be your go-to strategies?
Yeah, I think my first or the key factor or the key strategy I would say is that keep yourself open. Be very open-minded. Don't have preconceived notions. I do suffer from it, but I won't show it. And I will keep it very open, because as soon as you have a preconceived notion, you will never be able to understand sincerely the real message that the person is trying to convey to you. So the first thing is that keep a very open mind. In fact, I was with the South Koreans recently, and they had something called mind education. And in that, they said how South Korea progressed from a per capita income of something like 30 rupees or $30 to what it is now, 35,000, 30,000. And that is simply because after the war, after the Korean War, they just kept a very, very open mind. No preconceived notions, listened to everyone from the smallest to the highest. And mind you, in our life, we can learn from anyone. We must never think that we have stopped learning. We must never think that because we are at the top, that you are God's gift to mankind. You have to always keep your mind open. Listen to people. Appreciate what they're trying to convey to you. And bring them as a part of a team. As a leader, if you try to portray yourself as someone who knows it all, other people will stop talking. But if you keep yourself open, keep yourself vulnerable, transparent, then people will talk with you. You will get ideas, not only my ideas, their ideas, and as a team, we will operate that much better. So for me, that's the key. Of course, there are a lot of other traits I can give you, but being open to anything is for me
the key to leadership.
That's very interesting. So, if someone were to ask you, how would you define leader? In other words, what does leadership means to you?
Actually, I'm at a bit of an advantage in answering this question because very recently I was the keynote speaker at the Great Places to Work conference, and I opened my address by saying that leadership is the ability to get someone to work for you and work with you without that someone feeling obliged to do so. If you can get that, that means you have mastered leadership. In fact, very recently in Facebook, I saw a quote from Jack Ma of Alibaba, and he says, you can have the most brilliant of technical skills. You can be the most literate person, the most articulate person, but if you can't work with people and to get people to work with you, you can never succeed. And I'm a firm believer in that. It's not your technical ability. I'm a very average person. Just got through my O-levels, A-levels, I crashed. Of course, I didn't want to study because my father wanted me to be a doctor. But I would attribute everything that I have and I have achieved in relative terms is that ability to work with people. And I think we were very lucky that our school gave us that background. A lot of us, and I'm going to talk a little bit of my school,
Yes.
they think that Thomians are elitist. It is not. We learn to live with anyone. We never have anything about caste or ethnicity or anything. My best friends were Tamils, or maybe non-Sinhalese. And we never thought about it in that way. And that was a huge grounding where everyone was taught to be equal. In fact, Thomas Gray, in his famous poem, The Elegy, says that we are all very equal. And those are the types of learnings that have resonated and stayed in my heart.
Any leaders whom you consider as role models?
Yeah, there is no one person that comes to my mind. I used to read quite a lot from my very small days. And the types of books that appealed to me right at the start was the Greek mythologies. And there were heroes like Perseus, Theseus, Odysseus and all, and those were my role models. As young people, you want to be heroes, slay the dragon and look at all those Greek mythological stories. So there were sort of some aspirations developed out of that. But I also read about a guy called Seymour Cray, who developed the Cray technologies. Some of the world's first big computer was developed by the Cray technologies. And those are the types of stories that inspired me in my life. And my mother used to laugh at me saying, "You are a dreamer." Because I used to tell her, "Mommy, I'll become one of those." And she used to say, "As usual, you're dreaming." But dreams or not, those are the types of role models that drew me. But in recent times, I would say Nelson Mandela was a huge sort of influence in my life, because I lived in Africa. I studied in South Africa. Actually, I met him. He came to lecture to us at our master's. So all that combined to make him a huge role model in my life. And what really struck me was, despite all the hardships he went through at the hands of the authorities at that time, the type of forgiveness that he gave, he didn't hold that against them. And I always think to myself, if someone does wrong to you, I think I will love them more than anyone else. So that to me, so Nelson Mandela, and there were various people who come to my mind, both from a corporate angle, social angle, and from a political angle.
So then, if we move out to business, talking about business, you have been involved in quite few acquisitions. So what is your criteria in identifying what are the good, fundamentally sound business to acquire?
You see, in business, again, this is my theory, right? My principle, which I applied when I was at John Keats. You see, every business or every project, when it's recommended, there is a justification for that. Otherwise, you won't, at a very simple level, you are not going to recommend that. So, for me, the trick of having a successful project is just to look at the risks. You see, the good things in a project will anyhow happen. But very often we forget what are the risks. And we will first identify, particularly at John Keats, we will identify all the risks inherent and intrinsic in that project. And then try and mitigate those risks. And I can tell you quite unashamedly or without bragging that John Keats has a very good risk identification and a risk management process. Because if you are very good at that, a project that looks daunting to someone else becomes a run of the mill for you, because you know you can manage those risks. So even in terms of bidding, I'll be able to get a more advantageous bid because I don't see negativities in some of the things that others see. And also don't get biased. As an accountant or as a management accountant or as a project initiator, I can always make figures look good if I favor it personally. Now you must have that open mind I spoke to you about earlier, to know that people can be biased and think of it without having your own biases in your heart. And these are the common pitfalls that we encounter. There are people's favorite projects. And as management accountants, I don't know, you must be accountants or not. I can always justify things. I can bring some argument or absorption rates or anything to make that project look good. But someone else in my team should be able to see through that and ask the relevant questions.
So being open-minded and risk management would be the best.
I would say risk management, that is an area where I still believe people are poor at. When we have a project, we only look at the good parts of it. But if we just pause to think, what are the potential risks that can make this project go bad? you will win. And I can say that John Keys has not been always right. There are times when our view of a project may have been different to what it ultimately pans out to be. But risk management for me is very important. And getting rid of personal biases.
Yes. Got it.
So, we were going through your book, and you devote a significant portion to tackle professionalism and ethics. So, how hard it can sometimes to be actually behave professionally and ethically. So, though nowadays everybody learns about it, what are your views on it, and how did you manage your professional and ethical dilemmas?
Yeah. As I mentioned to you, my parents were very ethical people, so it was not difficult for me to get into that stream. But I'm sure 95% of our professionals come from very good family backgrounds. So I won't use that as an excuse if they say, but I can't become a professional because I have to earn money, my boss is like this, my company is like this. I must say that I have a fairly hard attitude when it comes to people who cry, saying it's very difficult to be a professional in Sri Lanka's current environment. I'm a firm believer that you have to do what is right. It doesn't matter whether you're short of money, whether you're down in the drains or down in the dumps, you have to do what is right. I was very fortunate, I guess, because I was tested at a very young age of my life, at the age of 28 or 27, when I had to face a professional dilemma in my workplace. That is, as I landed in Zambia, or even earlier when I was working here in Sri Lanka, where my boss asked me to sack a guy who had done nothing wrong. Okay. And I resisted. And that's one of the reasons I decided to go out to Zambia. In Zambia, my first encounter was this professional dilemma. So I guess I'm fortunate, but I would guess that given my parental backgrounds, social backgrounds, school backgrounds, I may have still taken the same decision irrespective of where I was. So professionals must follow their code of conduct. And there is a pecking order for a professional. If you are chartered, the word chartered means that you are in public service. So your first allegiance or your first responsibility is to the public. Then it is to your profession. Yes. Then it is to your employer. Then it is to yourself. And I think if we all get together and make it a point to follow that line of importance, I don't think a lot of the shenanigans we have had here in the corporate world, not only in Sri Lanka, elsewhere would have happened. In fact, I was at a seminar just after the war had ended, or just after I think the new government came into power. I can't remember what it was, but Mr. Valiamuna was also there. And my first question, I think it was just after the government came into power, my first question to the audience was, what were the professionals doing? If there was such a lot of trickery and bribery and corruption, what were the professionals doing? Were they all blind? Why didn't they have the guts to stand up and say, no, I'm not going to do that? Get sacked. Doesn't matter. At least you have stayed true to your heart. So, professionals have to behave as professionals. Otherwise, don't become chartered accountants or lawyers or doctors. See the doctors today. I have no political thing. Are they behaving to their profession? They are holding the country to ransom on a profession that is supposed to be noble. I have no political things. I'm just going by the profession. I don't want to know whatever reasoning they give for going on strike or anything. And similarly, accountants, the way they behave, any profession, there is no excuse.
So finally, what would you give to the young people who are in their career, like they are in their early stages? What kind of advices would you give to them?
I would say remain patient. Don't think that just because you become chartered or MBA or anything that you can become managing director. It's good development, but one has to stay patient. And also, if I was to take a leaf out of my book, when I say book, my life, is that you have to set yourself milestones, and practical, realistic milestones. Rome was never built in a day, and leadership and technocracy or technical expertise or technical proficiency comes from exposure. So it's great that you get through the qualification, but you need experience under your belt, and experience comes from encounters, and encounters comes unfortunately from age. I'm not saying that age is a criteria, but say if I meet any situation today, it will go into my database of experiences and I know how to react to that situation. And I keep on updating that database. So to young professionals, I will say integrity, honesty goes without saying. Don't compromise on your values. Stay as a professional, even if you are not a professional. Do the right thing. Be patient. Learn everything in its nitty-gritty. Now, a lot of people think that if I am at the top, I don't have to go to the bottom. But one thing I have learned from my life is that everything I know as well as anyone who is actually doing it. So that when I have a chat or a debate with them, the empathy that I bring to the table is that much greater, because I got hands-on experience doing it. And that's also an advantage for me as in my life. As you know, I started as the lowest possible accounts clerk. There was no one lower than I was. And every rung of the way, I came up with this attitude in mind. Whatever you do, learn it 100%. So maybe I was at a bit of a head start in that, but that was the goal I made for myself. I told you, my mother said I'm a dreamer.
Yes.
But those are the goals. And one thing for achieving that goal was I had to know everything in and out. A lot of people think that if you're a leader, delegate it and you don't have to know more. Yeah, maybe it might succeed, but
not for a long time.
Pardon my language, they most probably will bullshit you also. You have to know it.
Well, that brings us to the end of the interview. So, Mr. Rani, thank you very much for agreeing to be part of this and sharing